Hello, we're going to talk about interpreting the scores. You've given your test, you have the results, and now you want to understand what the numbers mean. First, I want to kind of upset you a little bit. You should know that all tests are inaccurate. That is, the true score of any student is arrived at looking at the raw or obtained score, that is the number that you got, plus or minus the standard error of measurement. Every test has an error. That means that a grade like 49 or 59 or 79 is useless, because the smallest possible error of even standardized tests like TOEFL is 3%. That is, no test is actually the number that you think it is. So, for example, if a student got a 78% on a test, and let's say that the standard error of measurement is SEM is 5 points, that means that the grade is actually plus or minus 5 points. Then the true score is between 73 and 83. So then you cannot say that a student's grade of 78 is actually very accurate. I mean, if you had a thermometer like that, you'd throw it out. But that's all we get from tests, so you can't really rely on them. They're not very reliable. Now, let's talk about reliability. Not only do we need to talk about the percentage, but also scores. If you have multiple choice questions, anybody can score them, and so you get a number. But if you have people who are grading your paper, if it's an essay test, so let's take a look at the process. I'm grading 30 papers, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I've got my coffee, and I've had my breakfast, and I'm very happy. And then I see that around lunchtime I'm tired, and I'm giving scores that are a little bit lower. So I stop and then have lunch again, and then by 2 o'clock the scores are a little bit higher and I'm in a better mood. So we have to look at the scorer as well as looking at the student papers. We have two ways of doing this. We have inter-rater reliability. The scorer is the rater, like international. That is, if I look at the same paper as a colleague of mine, will I give the same grade? Unfortunately, research shows that I can give a paper an A, and my colleague can give the same paper an F, and that's perfectly normal. So it's important to look at the inter-rater reliability and how to make it as high as possible, and we'll talk about that later. The other point is intra-rater reliability. Intra meaning the same person. This is me at 8 o'clock a.m. and me at 8 o'clock p.m. How reliable am I? So the difference between A and B is A is more than one scorer and B is the same scorer. Now, how can we make tests more reliable? First of all, take enough samples of behavior. You cannot give a student only one test for the whole course, or one sample. I can give you one test, but I also can give you an essay, and I can give you assignments. I need to take as many samples of behavior as possible. The more questions, the more tests, the higher the reliability. I also need to limit the scope of the questions. Avoid broad essay questions, or give me very specific rubrics. A 20-point question is criminal. You're not allowed ever to give questions that are more than, let's say, 5 points, or have rubrics more than 5 points. Otherwise, you lower the reliability. Write unambiguous, clear items. 4. Provide clear and explicit instructions, again the rubrics. Ensure the tests are well laid out and perfectly legible. This is face validity, if you remember. If the student cannot read the text, then the student cannot have a reliable score. 6. Candidates should be familiar with test format and testing techniques. Very often, if you take a course for the psychometric test, the grades go up by 20%. But it may not be because of the course. It may be that the student familiarizes herself with the test format and the testing techniques, and that's enough to give that 20% increase. 7, the tester should provide uniform and non-distracting conditions of test administration. The classroom should be comfortable. If the students are too hot or too cold, they can't concentrate. If there's drilling or building next door and the students can't think straight because of the noise level, again, they can't concentrate. 8, use items that permit scoring which is as objective as possible, or, as I said, write good rubrics. 9, make comparisons between candidates as direct as possible. That is, give clear tests or quizzes, or make it clear. 10, provide a detailed scoring key. 11, train scorers. That's right. If you don't want an A and an F from the same essay, then you have to have a session to train your scorers. 12, agree on acceptable responses and appropriate scores at the outset of the scoring. Otherwise, you have to inform the scorers of all the changes that you make. For example, in a closed test, some teachers will accept one answer and other teachers will not. So they have to agree. 13, make your tests anonymous. You're not supposed to know the name of the student. Otherwise, you say, oh, this one should get a high grade, or I don't like that one. So it has to be identification by number, not name. And finally, employ multiple independent scoring. Each test should be independent of the other test. Give the students a chance. If the student failed one test, but they can show they can study, if they can improve, then give the students every test to show their knowledge. Okay, that's all. Okay, now I want to give you an example of a test situation, a classroom situation. Let's say that I have 4 tests during the semester. One is in reading, one of them is in writing, one of them is in listening, and one of them is in reading comprehension. And we have 10 students. We have David, Adi, Ro'i, Ali, Ellie, right? And here we have 10 students, and the first test, I put the scores according to order. So let's say that with the highest one first. So David got 100 on the reading test, and then Adi got 90, and then the next 2 were 2 80s, and then there was a 70, 3 70s, there was a 60, a 50, and a 40. Now on the writing test, the David also got the highest score, but as you see, they don't go down in order anymore because students are like that. It's not automatic. We have a few 80s down below, and again, but the bottom students did get 40. Okay, now in the third one, you see that the distribution of scores is different. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. If we look at test A, we look at the range, the mode, the median, and the mean. And if we look at test A, you see that the range is between the highest and the lowest, 100 minus 40, and the range is 60 points. The mode, think about à la mode. La mode in French is the fashion. Which is the most popular grade? Well, we have 3 70s. So the mode is 70. Whoops. And then the median, half the students are above it and half the students are below it. In this case, there are 5 students above 70 and there are 5 students below 70. 70 is our median. And then the mean average, here you really have to calculate. You add up all the grades between 100 and 40, and then you divide by 10. And then you see these are all kinds of averages. The mode is 70, 70, and this is 71. The most accurate is the mean average. There is also the percentile. אחוזון. That is, if I have a particular grade, let's say David, I'm in the top 10%. And if I got a 90, I would still be in the top 10%. Nobody got a 90. Oh yes, Adi got a 90, so we have 10%. And well, E, there are two 80s, so that's 20%. Now let's say that we take all of the tests, A, B, C, D, and here are the scores from 95 to 100, 90 to 94, 83 to 85. Oops. There were no scores in this interval. Now, if I take this, I put X's for every student that got a score here, and if I turn it as if I were rotating it to the left, I would almost like get a normal curve, wouldn't I? With the highest point here with the 70s, right? Now, this doesn't look the same in test B. In test B, there were 3 80s, that's the highest score, and there were some low scores. This is much harder test, you see that, much harder. In test C, the students are all clumped together, so that you have all the students within about 10 points. And test D is clearly too easy. All the grades are very, very high. Now, if I ask you which test is better than the other, we don't know. It depends on your purpose. If you're having an entrance test or a placement test, you want to separate out your students as much as possible so that you can say, okay, I have 4 places in my new course, and I can go and take the first students. Here, this won't be helpful for a placement test. Okay, and here you can read the summaries on your own. This is our evaluation of the test. Thank you.